first, guys. Had snow. It's 4 o'clock. This is the regular meeting of Town Council. I'll have Rhonda to proceed and take roll call.
Butler?
Here.
Circus?
He's coming.
Madsen?
Here.
Shay? Good.
Here.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, Rhonda. And to all of you with just a few people in the audience this evening, welcome. We have no proclamations or presentations this evening. I'll ask if there's any public comment, and if so, if you would come up to the mic over here on your name, and then about 3 minutes on what you would like to bring to the attention of the Town Council. Anyone who wants to make a public comment? Hearing none, we will proceed. Consent agenda. Do I have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. Is there any item you'd like to pull out to discuss further, or attendance at any of these upcoming sessions? If not, all in support say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Well, this is going smoothly well.
This is great.
Oh.
Hi, Chase.
Hi, Tom.
Okay, we're going to be moving into a public hearing. The public hearing this evening is associated with the second reading of the ordinance 06, series of 2017, and this is an ordinance of the Town Council regarding the amendment to the official zone district. It's rezoning, if you will, simpler words. It's for an application for a portion of the Burlingame Cabin exemption parcel located within Snowmass Mountain PUD. Chase.
Yes, ma'am.
Does Andrew need to come up or no, or are we going to be pretty good? We'll call you up if you
Right.
want to come up and be close to a mic.
If you have questions, yes. We
Okay.
went through the first reading of this ordinance without any added conditions, and this is a rezoning for a portion of the parcel, which lies within Snowmass Mountain PUD. The portion of the parcel is essentially located underneath the cabin that exists up there right now. The applicant would like to rezone that portion as rec to be consistent with the remaining portions of the parcel, insofar as they can have the flexibility to return to Town Council with an application for further development under special review.
And to those of you in the public, I will continue the public hearing from the previous meeting.
Reopen it?
Reopen it? Yeah, whatever it was. Reopen.
Continued it to today.
Yeah, that's right. Reopen the public hearing. I'll ask my fellow council members, do we have any questions associated with the ordinance?
I don't.
Moved there in the 80s. Prior to that, I think it was somewhere else on the mountain. Historical significance could be drawn back further from or before the 80s, but it would not be specific to that location.
And can you remind us why it's just the space underneath the cabin?
What we have determined was that when they went to do a ski easement over the entire Snowmass Mountain PUD, the easement language accepted portions under that structure. So and then what we think is that language was then used for the zoning. So once when it was accepted during the easement language, it was also accepted during the zoning process.
Gotcha.
So, recognizing there is some historical significance to the building, but not to the location, has there been thought or given to moving the cabin to a place that we could preserve? Or is it even movable? I mean, I haven't been in there for, God, 10 years.
special review applications, something like that could be added as a condition, potentially.
Because that's, one of the thoughts that I've had over the years is we're celebrating 50 years, and we don't have any historical site or anything that we're want to tell our history about other than a book going forward. So just the thought of historical museums value. We all know museums are museums, but just something. So I won't go any further into historical preservation.
Did I read something somewhere that they were going to move the cabin, Andrew, or something for the 50th anniversary, and then have people jump it again? No, I thought I did. I'm serious. I thought I read
It's not
something.
true.
There is a cabin jumping
true.
going on.
There won't be that cabin.
Well, it'll be a different cabin.
It'll be a simulation
Andrew Light
of
with
the old
Burlingame
cabin.
Cabin Snowmass LLC. I don't, the cabin, if you tried to move it, it'd be nice. Someone could move it, but
Okay.
it's pretty frail.
Okay.
And it was originally moved to where it is now because people were jumping over it.
No, right. So that was the
So
cabin we
whether-
jumped over for
Whether
years.
Madeline's article suggested that's
That's
an
right.
idea didn't come from us.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Do I have a motion for approval on ordinance?
Motion to approve?
Thank you. Bill, do I have a second?
I second that motion for
Oh.
ordinance number 6.
Okay, thank you very much. And so this will be a roll call vote.
Marky, I don't know if you want to open up to more, ask for public comment on this in case somebody wants to.
Does anybody want to comment? I see no hands. Okay. You want to proceed, Rhonda, with roll call?
Butler?
Here. I mean, yes.
Circus?
Yes.
Mattson?
Yes.
Chick? And Good?
Yes.
Okay, passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you in the future on this whole project.
All right, good luck.
I will now close the public hearing. The next item is policy legislative public meetings. Anything here? No? Has anyone got anything policy or legislative updates on council that you're particularly interested in other than what's happening in city of Denver and Washington? Administrative reports. And this is base village amendment to declaration of CCRs for commercial use. Julianne, we're looking forward to your report. And okay. By the way, I did have, here's a letter. I haven't had a chance to read it. We do have a letter that came in just about an hour before council was called into session. This is a letter from Pat Kiefer, and it's base village amendment. It's their comments on the CCRCs. I will accept the letter, which I haven't had time to really peruse, into the legal documents of this council session. Okay, Julianne?
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. We did receive a request from SV's Land Holdings LLC, more commonly known as East West. The new owners of the base village, they would like to be able to use some of the existing square footage that's in the existing Phase 1 buildings into B for a real estate sales office and additional office space for their construction operations and maintaining Snowmass hospitality in Building 2C. This would not be an issue except for the fact that the CCNRs indicated a cap in office use not to exceed 5,000 square feet. And so combined with Building B and Building C. And so they go over that by somewhere close to 1,000 square feet with this proposal. So in looking at the CCNRs and asking John for his opinion regarding it, we determined that what they needed to do if they were going to change those CCNRs is they needed to put it in writing as a request before council. And so that's what they are doing here is basically informing you to get consent to proceed proceed with this change to the CCNRs, increasing that cap from 5,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet in total.
I had a question for you. Is this permanent, or is it just during the construction, or help me understand all of that.
Yeah, my understanding is that it could be permanent for as long as the village gets
Oh, I
built
see.
out. So
That
it
makes
will be longer, it'll be bigger than a breadbasket, but we don't know where the termination may be, but knowing that they have control of the current leases in buildings 2B and 2C, they've made it very clear that their intent is not to be there any longer than they need to. But it just makes sense for them to run their operations out of there for now. So, could be as much as 10 years.
And Julianne, none of this moving offices around, no, I'm answering that. Is any of this moving offices from one place that already exist into building 2B or 2C?
They do not have a construction office yet, so this would be new for the construction office in Building 2C. Snowmass Hospitality has been in 2C space, although a portion of that operation will end up going over to Building 7 when it becomes the arrival center. But they will still maintain some office in Building 2C. And then the latest sales office, the new addition of that sales office, would go in what was formerly the Snowmass Gen, it's the children's clothing store. So that would be new office space in there.
So this is like dominoes as we go through, which are unpredictable right now in terms of next phase and what have you. Yeah. Tom, did you?
No, I read, of course, Pat's letter came in, excuse me, Pat's letter came in at the 11th hour as usual, and she had some points, but I got that clarified with Clint in regards to what this actually is, and the east-west request is certainly a very good one, so my question's fine.
Julianne, what's the total square footage of 2A and 2B?
I do not think I have that information right now. 2A was not, 2A was not part of this equation. It was only
I'm
building
sorry,
2B and 2C.
Excuse me, that's what I meant. I'm sorry. 2B and 2C.
In 2B, we had, and I'm going to round these numbers off, but roughly 1,000 square feet each for two different real estate offices. So there's 2,000 feet there. There is the new office, the new sales center would be approximately 1,000 square feet, roughly, which would bring us up to 3. And then in 2C, it's the village level floor and the floor below it. And I am guessing that was about 1,500 square feet for each of those levels.
Is
So
that where
that
we
was-
were originally going to put the Discovery Center?
Yes.
Okay, that's a very small.
Yeah, before the,
levels, yeah.
yes, before the amendment.
That's about right.
process.
I'd say that's about right.
So roughly about 6,000 square feet in both B and
Okay.
C.
And their request is a maximum of 10,000 square feet.
Yes.
That includes the lower level, right?
That includes lower level.
Which,
Okay, which is about, so the 10,000 square feet
yes.
about covers those two buildings?
It gives them some latitude if they needed to put another tenant in one of the spaces or something along that lines. Because right now as proposed, it would be about 6,000 square
Yeah.
feet. So that gives them a little bit of wiggle room
Right.
of upwards of up to
So-
4,000 between the two buildings.
Have you gotten any inclination or any input from them, from East West, that they would intend to put all the real estate offices that were to be in Base Village in this one section of 2 buildings?
I've not gotten any indication. What they did share with me is that there is a time limit on the 2 existing real estate offices in
Yeah.
terms of a lease that they control.
Right.
And their intention isn't to have, it's just the opposite. Their intention isn't to have a lot of real estate office in there. Eventually, they are hoping that they can move retail and/or food and beverage into some of those spaces. But right now, that's not what the market is demanding.
I mean, I guess I'm a little confused about the need for the request for 10,000 square feet, given what you have just said, including what you've just said, that they would probably, they may not even extend the current leases of real estate operations. So it seems to me that they're really requesting a lot more footage than they actually plan to use.
Yes, it is more than what they intend, at least right out
Yeah.
of the chute. I can't answer for
Yeah,
them
no,
as
I
far as
understand.
what their intention is, but I would also say that I think it gives them at least a little bit of latitude in the event that they find that they needed more space under their construction operations, to be able to use additional space if they think that they need it. But there's been no other conversation between them and our office regarding that.
Is there any, John, is there anything that prevents additional changes to CCRs, going forward?
Prevents?
Yeah, in other words, is there anything that would prevent the developer from coming back if this were approved for a smaller number of square feet? Is there anything in the future that prevents the developer from coming back and asking to expand it again?
No, but it could become problematic as more, once they get past the period of declarant control, they wouldn't have enough votes to have the majority to change it. They would have to seek consent of all the owners. And that's probably, and I'm going to speculate here, Julianne declined to do so, and you asked about their intentions, but I suspect that there's the potential for increase in sales activity and the need for space for that, as well as management activity in the space for that. And the only buildings that are authorized for office are 2ABC in the whole of the project. So rather than risk having to come back to this council or another council, stare down the ownership, they're probably making sure that they have some built-in flexibility at this point. Now, what's going to happen in terms of the current tenants over there, we don't know. That's entitled. I think what you need to realize is that 2A, B, and C are the only buildings that allow office space.
And 7 as well, right?
I don't believe so. No?
7 has retail.
Yes, 7 through 2.
Retail.
Yeah, but not office. And so understand that from the original concept here of centralized management, it has changed. And that may be the driving force to making sure that they're going to have enough space. They're in a position to make that request on behalf of the association because they control a majority. They have a council that is probably favorable to helping them sell and manage units to get this thing going again, and that's probably why the request is maybe a little bigger than what they're going to use right now. But in the same breath, the is an amendment.
Right.
And so that aggregate number of 10,000 will carry through.
Mhm.
And the town is only a consenting party to that change. We can't ask them to change it back, okay? We only have the power to consent to a change. We don't have the power to demand a change.
So,
This is under the terms of the agreement.
Right, right, right.
There's other forces
yeah,
in
always other.
play.
But as a standalone, 'cause I think
Yeah.
that's what you're
Yes.
suggesting,
Yes.
that as a standalone, once we agree to the, or once we consent to the
Consent.
change, there is, we don't really have any ability to make any further change.
No.
Do we have the ability to, I don't know, request or modify this request?
I mean, you can certainly ask, you know, if you don't ask, the answer is no, but I can't
Yeah,
say that
we
you
don't
have
know
any
the answer.
I'm not saying you have any legal standing to do so.
Okay.
I don't think you have the ability to revoke your consent. Once it's given,
Right.
it's going to be.
But they
But I mean,
can't,
you have to look at this really in the long run. These are operational things to get Base Village hitting on all cylinders. And when that day comes, they're gonna try and streamline operations and put this excess footage into money-making, you know.
right.
So, tendencies is what I'm saying.
I,
But that could be
yeah.
way down the timeline. Or it could be sooner than later. I mean, you can't
Because
really,
it all depends on how quickly the properties sell, and then how quickly
build out is
they build
achieved
out.
and then success.
Yeah.
And from there, rents will hopefully escalate, I guess.
You know, I have this whole theory about really facilitating success. And we know we want Base Village to be a successful operation. We want to see it not hamstrung by its ability to succeed. When I first looked at the request, I went, wow. But then the more you start thinking about what they have in front of them in terms of real estate, the sales, all the construction for 7 and 8, which has not started yet, which will probably start in about the time those get going. We'll be back into another building phase on the other side, the ski back, which is going to require more people, more manpower. So then I said to self, well, why would you want to limit them to 5,000 or 7,000 square feet? Part of this 10,000 is lower level, and it's not very pleasant space down there. I've been down there. And they'll clean it up. There's a storeroom and stuff that's stored there from Capitol Peak conference room. And they need to keep Snowman's hospitality going to keep the owners happy with Capitol Peak and Hayden. I don't want to second guess their operations. So I first said I'm really questioning the amount of square feet, but the more that I thought about it, the phasing they've got in front of them, I don't want to hamstring them from my perspective.
Well, in that same vein, remember that part of the considerations when this project went through 13 years ago was that a lot of the office type operations, payroll administration and stuff were going to be off-site because it was ski company had less expensive places to perform those functions. Now you have a different entity that may not have those places or that, what do I want to say, economies of scale. You know what I mean? They don't already have a payroll operation here. They don't already have whatever it is, and they might need space for those. But to answer you posed another maybe rhetorical question, but I'll give you a point of view. You said why? Because there was a fear or a concern. I won't say a fear, but there was a concern based on experience of, and Pat makes this point that an oversaturation of real estate offices don't properly contribute to the vibrancy and the vitality that was one of the overriding desires to have this project that way. So you need to be very careful when you look at these types of requests so that you know, you're not hamstringing your base village owner developer, but in the same time you're not affecting the overall vibrancy and vitality. So it's a balancing, and it might seem like a big request, but I think the current owner probably has a need and a future need for this office space. And there's another way of looking at that as well, and that is they are confining it to buildings that already have that office as a permitted use rather than proposing spreading it somewhere else within the base village. So there's a lot of ways you can look at it, and I'm just trying to illuminate all those for you.
So, I mean, it makes sense to me. I mean, they're currently paying rent next door over here, so they might as well move to some property that they own. Hopefully it'll reduce the number of construction trailers on site. I would imagine that's the thought. Is that right or no?
I doubt if it'll affect really construction trailers. It may, but if you're, I don't know how to put this like gently, but if you're running a construction site, you want those guys in the trailer. You don't want them in your buildings, okay? That's more for support and administrative because.
But the space that they're wanting to utilize is currently unoccupied, right?
It's being used for storage and, yes.
Yeah.
But essentially unoccupied.
Right.
Yes.
But it does look like Building 7, the village company can use commercial units as office so long as such use is for administrative purposes. I mean, not that that's.
It's on page 18.
Under the 2006 agreement you're reading from?
Yes.
Yeah, that's been amended.
Yeah, zoning amended that.
Well, it was, the declaration was amended in 2016 to remove that from Building 7. The office use. So if you keep going down,
That's on page 26.
What's the red number, Bob, you're looking at?
Red number is 46.
so I think you're looking at an older version, Bill.
Yeah, you're looking
We
at
have
the older.
both, okay.
Yeah, you had
26
both.
and
They
30.
were sequential.
I understand what the theory is behind here, and you're right, John. I mean, it is a balancing act, and I think it's definitely in the best interest for the developer to get out of there as soon as possible when the time comes, so the vibrancy will happen. And I don't think they have any intention of being there for a long time. And I totally understand Pat's letter and her email. She's got some very good points. And but as you just said and everybody else clarified, they need the space right now. They need to sell some. They need to sell some spaces, and they need to be up front, right in front of the project as it's going on.
I don't disagree with you. Understand that if the sales aspect goes away, there's a good possibility that the management aspect will need even more space. So it could be a storefront for the Snowmass Hospitality and that operation. So I think they've added some on, so they're not back in here in a couple of years saying, "Oh, we need another 2,000 feet. We need." So hopefully this will be the cap. If you find that it's not going to affect that balance, and it may affect the balance at the beginning, and then in the long term you won't know that for quite some time. But if if they can put it to a higher and better use,
They will.
exactly.
So this doesn't require an approval, correct? It just,
You
Our
need to get the
consent?
consent.
huh?
You need a motion for consent.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Bill, do you have any more?
No.
Do I have a motion for consent?
I'll make a motion to consent for approval.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bill. Further questions? All in support? Aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you very much, Julianne. And now we'll move on to Town Council reports and actions. I'll start to my left.
I just wanted to bring it up that Basalt and Eagle County have adopted a climate action pledge, kind of similar to Aspen's Canary initiative. And I think that we should be pursuing a similar initiative here in Snowmass Village.
I have no problems with that. Anybody else? I'm looking over at my fellow colleagues. Nope, everybody's fine with that.
It's a climate,
Action pledge.
what is that, how does that
Hang
compare to
on,
like
we'll
our?
take care of it.
It's-
All of you raise your right hand and pledge to take proper climate action.
Right.
Done.
Theirs is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 25% by 2025 and 80% by 2050.
Yeah, I mean, we just call ours a resiliency plan.
Don't we have one?
We do.
Yeah.
I can get it back to you and show you what we're doing now, and our numbers are similar to that. We just call it a resiliency plan. Let me go ahead and get that back to you so you can see it, and see if that's gonna meet the needs, and if it doesn't, we can update it for sure, and we can check out their action pledge as well, and see how they compare.
And I guess while we're doing that, if we could get an update on our solar and energy, renewable energy for the town of Snowmass Village. What's that?
Where are we?
I mean, how we're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, with our goals.
So just, we can get you an update of the whole resiliency plan, and
Yeah, just see where we are and how to best move forward.
yeah, maybe it's sustainable. Pardon me, sustainability. Yes. Let us get some updates too.
Okay.
We did one. 6 months ago? So
Yeah, it's
about
been a
8
while.
months, but we can get you an update.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay. I don't have anything to report of substance. Okay.
Well, I would like to commend Travis on the noxious weed video that he put together. I saw the link in the noxious weed email, or the town's email that came out this week on noxious weeds, and I found it very informative. I am wondering how one finds out about the herbicides that are recommended for private use, though. So if you can get that information, that'd be great. Maybe helpful to put it on the website, because I looked at both the Snowmass Village and the county websites, and I really can't find anything about, for a private individual, what they besides yanking them out of the ground, what can you do?
Right. And I don't think we have gone as far as that in terms of recommending specific chemicals or herbicides, but I do know the county has a pretty good resource that we might be able to tap into, where they give contact information for licensed applicators,
Yeah,
and they also loan out backpack sprayers and
I
things
saw that
like
part, yeah.
So, yeah, we can definitely get that
That'd be
information out there.
Yep.
Thank you, though.
Okay, you're welcome.
Tom?
No, I don't have anything. We had no core meeting in April. Our next core meeting will be May 19th from 9 to 1, so I'm good.
Okay. Recognizing there's no other business, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Thank you, Bob. Do I have a second?
Second.
opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you very much. We're off.